I've been in the health and fitness and nutrition world for longer than I care to mention, and I'm probably getting long in the tooth, but the good thing that comes with that is, along with the grey hair, is a degree of wisdom. And I'm not putting tickets on myself, but when you immerse yourself in one thing for a long enough period of time, you get to have a longitudinal perspective. You get to have an insight as to what works and what doesn't. And the beauty about my experience is that I've dabbled with a lot of things. Some things work, some things don't. Some things could work, but they don't fit in with your lifestyle and your structure. And the things that work, I've worked hard to create a habit. And what I've learned over the last however many years is that you can get lost in the weeds with all this stuff. There's so much information out there about the best ways to live a long and healthy life, how to lose weight, how to stay fit, how to be strong, all that. Like, there's so much. It gets very confusing for anyone just sort of wanting to know some of the truths around this stuff. So I really wanted to boil it down. And some of this stuff is so rudimentary, you'd be like, oh, yeah, of course I do that. You're an idiot, Scott, and that's fair enough. And if you're doing it, then switch off now. It doesn't really matter. But broad brushstrokes, what are the top 3 or 4 things that we can all do, if not every day, most of the time, most of the days of the week? So it can't be too pointy end of this stuff. It can't be too nuanced. You can waste a lot of time, a lot of energy, and particularly a lot of money by delving too deep into the world of health and fitness and longevity in a bid to live longer and healthier, when some of this easy stuff, free stuff, accessible stuff, practical stuff requires no money, little bit of energy, a little bit of habit forming, but that costs nothing, and it'll move the needle much further than some of these like crazy things. But anyway, I digress. So what could be my top 3 or 4 tips to staying fit and healthy? I reckon one, and again this is so rudimentary you're going to roll your eyes, and that's hydration. So think about us as, particularly in somewhere like Australia, it's a pretty warm climate wherever you are, particularly in the summer. You're going to lose water through sweat and urination all day, even during your sleep. So the best thing that you can do upon waking is restore that lost hydration as a consequence of your 7, 8, 9 hours sleep. So typically we lose about 100 mils a day. So more if it's really hot, more if you're exercising. So you need to replenish that. So if you think about your 8 hours sleep, you're now assuming that you drank moments before you went to bed, and assuming that you were hydrated optimally as you went to bed, you're about 800 mils in the deficit. So we need to replenish that, and being marginally dehydrated has a huge magnitude effect on your focus, concentration, drive, all that stuff. So first thing you do upon waking is consume 2 or 3 large glasses of water to redress that balance, that lost hydration. And then obviously throughout the day, depending where you are, depending on how much exercise you're doing, all that sort of stuff plays a part. But we want to be having, 2.5, 3 litres over the course of the day. The other thing, so that's hydration, that's number 1. Number 2, this is not in any particular order. If you can combine all this in any given day, you'll be streets ahead. So number 2 would be sleep. So prior to you drinking the 800 mils or the litre upon waking, embrace sleep like you would embrace any other facet or aspect of health. And if you're taking supplements but you're having shit sleep, forget the supplements, focus on a good sleep routine and hygiene, and try and keep that as consistent as possible. Not easy when we like to socialize and we've got stress and family and all that, but treasure sleep as best you can. Set up we all have a different chronotype, so that's important to know. What is your natural bedtime when you take away Netflix and serial dramas and all that? When you strip that away, so you're being in the bush for 3, 4, 5 days, what is the time that you naturally start to fall into a rested and a sleep state? That is your natural chronotype. Knowing that means that you can work out where your 8 hours of sleep finishes, and are you a morning lark or you a night owl? All these are important things to understand and to know. But that aside, work out what rhythm and routine you can do consistently that gets you your 7 or 8 or your 9 hours, that ensure that you're primed, optimized, ready to live the fullest life that you can. So sleep, I can't understate or overemphasize the importance of good sleep, good consistent sleep. The hydration. Third one is movement, and this is different for all people. There's gym junkies, there's walkers, there's rowers, there's surfers. Any exercise is better than no exercise. So going from doing something from nothing is amazing. Then if you really want to dial it in and it's important for you to increase your performance, improve your performance in X, Y, and Z sport, then obviously there's a career path for that. But if you're just a recreational exerciser, then I advise you to do something most days, and do something that requires a degree of exertion, that requires you to be out of breath for periods of time whilst you're exercising. So that can be anything. It can be, you can have that in walking, you can have that in surfing, you can have that in weight training, but just enough to get you out of breath, just enough to, bead up with a bit of sweat. That would be my advice. Incorporate something into your routine that requires some exertion, that requires you to be in a state of discomfort. That's probably a good way to position it. And do something most days. So that's hydration, sleep, exercise, doing something most days, make it somewhat uncomfortable. And probably the fourth one is, probably not that hard to imagine, but it's nutrition. And there's so much conjecture as to what is the most optimal diet, and there's probably no one diet that is optimal for all of us. But broad brushstrokes, again, I would suggest having as much natural food as you can. You don't have to be perfect straight out of the gate. You don't have to be perfect 100% of the time. So where to start? I've been saying it for ad nauseum for 15 years. Cook as much food as you can in your own kitchen. So what I mean by that is, if you're cooking as much food as you can in your own kitchen, there's a greater degree of chance that you're cooking with real food. So I'm not talking about reheating, although you can reheat our ready meals, they're fantastic. But I'm not talking about reheating a packaged, apart from our ready meals. You know what I mean. I'm not talking about chucking something in the microwave that's highly convenient and highly processed. What I'm talking about is essentially cooking something from scratch. So if you're cooking something from scratch, I'm saying that there's a higher degree that those ingredients that you're cooking and inputting into the dish are natural. And if they're natural, they've got more nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and so you're starting to get ahead of the game rather than relying wholly on synthetic, refined, highly processed food. So it doesn't matter if you're not cooking anything at home currently. So let's assume that you're eating everything from out Everything over the course of the week is outsourced from Uber Eats, Deliveroo, 7-Eleven, whatever, who cares? Just draw a line in the sand, and maybe 5% of what you consume over any given week is now made with your own hands in your own kitchen. And I think if that becomes increasingly more prevalent over your weeks and months and years, at some point you're going to look back and go, okay, well, there was a time where 100% of the food that I consumed was delivery, because, you know, Uber Eats and 7-Eleven and all that. And now I'm finding that 20, 30, 40, 50% of what I'm consuming is made by my own hands, in my own kitchen, predominantly from natural foods. And that's about it. It doesn't have to be much harder or more detailed than that. And I think if you're doing those pretty rudimentary things, water, moving your body, sleeping well, eating as much natural and unprocessed food as you can, you're doing pretty well. And if you start to stack them and you do them consistently over days and weeks and months and years, you're home and hose. And you don't have to spend oodles on online programs and supplements and detoxes. Just do those simple things and do them often.